The clock on the wall showed 11:47 p.m. when Maya pushed her cleaning cart through the glass doors of the 45th floor. Her shift had started at 9, and she still had 3 more floors to clean before she could go home. The building was almost completely empty now, just the way she liked it. No awkward encounters in hallways. No people pretending not to see her. No uncomfortable moments when someone would start talking to her, only to get frustrated when they realized she couldn't hear them. Maya had been working as a night janitor at this tech company for 3 years now. 3 long years of mopping floors, emptying trash bins, and wiping down desks while the city slept outside those massive windows. She'd gotten used to the routine. Building security would nod at her when she arrived. She'd change into her uniform in the basement locker room. Then she'd spend the next 8 hours making sure everything was spotless for the people who'd arrive in the morning, the people who'd never know her name. Being deaf in a hearing world wasn't easy. Maya had learned that lesson early in life. She'd been born unable to hear, and while her parents had made sure she learned sign language and got a good education, the world outside hadn't always been welcoming. She'd gone to college, earned her degree in graphic design, and had dreams of working somewhere creative. But those dreams had slowly faded after dozens of job applications went unanswered. The few interviews she did get never went anywhere. People would see "requires ASL interpreter" on her application and suddenly the position would be filled. So here she was, pushing a cart full of cleaning supplies through one of the biggest tech companies in the city. It wasn't what she'd imagined for herself, but it paid the bills. Her small apartment wasn't much, but it was hers. And there was something peaceful about working at night, about having the whole building to herself. During the day, these hallways were packed with people rushing to meetings, talking on phones, discussing projects she'd never be part of. At night, it was just her and the gentle hum of the building systems that she couldn't hear, but could feel vibrating through the floors. Tonight felt different somehow. As Maya pushed her cart past the executive offices, she noticed light spilling out from under one of the doors at the end of the hallway. That was unusual. The top-floor executives were never here this late. They had homes to go to, families waiting for them, lives outside these walls. She hesitated for a moment, then decided to come back to that office later. Maybe whoever was in there would be gone by then. She started with the conference room, spraying and wiping down the long tables where important decisions were made. She emptied the trash bins filled with coffee cups and food wrappers. She vacuumed the expensive carpets that her feet sank into with every step. Maya had cleaned these rooms so many times she could do it with her eyes closed. Her hands moved automatically, wiping, scrubbing, arranging. An hour passed. Then another. When Maya finished the rest of the floor and returned to the hallway with the executive offices, that light was still on. She could see it clearly now, a warm glow coming from the corner office. The biggest one, the one that belonged to the CEO, the young guy whose face was on all the company posters in the lobby. She'd seen him a few times from a distance, always surrounded by other people in expensive suits, always moving fast like he had somewhere important to be. Maya took a deep breath and knocked gently on the doorframe. She'd learned to knock harder than hearing people did because she couldn't hear how loud it was. When there was no response, she knocked again and slowly pushed the door open. The CEO was sitting at his desk, and he looked nothing like the confident man from the posters. His tie was loosened, his jacket thrown over a chair, and his face was buried in his hands. Papers were scattered everywhere. His computer screens glowed with what looked like endless spreadsheets and documents. He looked exhausted, defeated even. When the door opened wider, he looked up, startled. His mouth moved, and Maya knew he was speaking, probably apologizing for working so late or telling her to come back later. She saw the confusion cross his face when she didn't respond. This was always the awkward part. Maya pointed to her ear and shook her head, then made the sign she'd learned to use with hearing people who didn't know sign language. She touched her ear and her mouth, then waved her hand to indicate no. Most people understood what that meant. "I'm deaf. I can't hear you." What happened next shocked her completely. The CEO's expression changed. His eyes widened, and then slowly, carefully, he raised his hands. His fingers moved in the familiar patterns of sign language, forming words in the air between them. "I'm sorry," he signed. "I didn't mean to disturb you." Maya's hands flew to her mouth. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. In 3 years of working in this building, not a single person had ever signed to her. Not one. And here was the CEO of the entire company signing. His movements were a bit slow, a bit rusty, but it was definitely sign language. "You know how to sign?" she asked with her hands, her movements much more fluid and natural than his. He nodded, a sad smile crossing his tired face. "My sister," he signed back. "She's deaf. I learned when we were kids." Maya's cart stood forgotten in the doorway. She took a step closer, then another. "Your sister is deaf?" she signed. The CEO nodded again, and something heavy settled over his expression. He gestured to the empty chair across from his desk, asking without words if she'd like to sit. Maya hesitated. This was the CEO, she was the janitor. There were probably 100 rules about this kind of thing. But something in his face, the loneliness there, the exhaustion, made her move forward. She sat down in the leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "We don't talk anymore," he signed, his movements becoming more confident as muscle memory returned. "My sister and me, we had a fight with our family years ago. I took one side. She took another. I haven't seen her in 7 years." Maya felt her heart squeeze. She understood family pain, the kind that didn't just go away. "I'm sorry," she signed simply. He shook his head. "I miss her every day," his hand said. "But I'm too proud to reach out. Too stubborn, just like our father." For the next hour they talked, really talked. Not the surface conversations Maya sometimes had with hearing people who learned a few signs and got bored after 5 minutes. This was real communication, the kind she rarely experienced outside her small circle of deaf friends. The CEO told her about the pressure of running a company this size, about board meetings where he had to pretend to have all the answers, about the loneliness of being at the top where everyone wanted something from him, but no one really knew him. Maya found herself opening up too, telling him about her struggles to find work, about how she'd applied to this very company 3 years ago for a design position and never heard back, about how she'd taken the janitor job because she needed to pay rent and it was the only offer she got, about how she'd learned to be invisible, to move through the world without expecting people to see her. "That's terrible," he signed, genuine anger flashing across his face. "You applied here? For what position?" "Communications department," Maya signed. "Entry-level graphic designer. I had my portfolio and everything. I checked the box that said I was deaf and needed an interpreter for the interview. Never got a call." The CEO's jaw tightened. He turned to his computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Maya watched as he pulled up screens and scrolled through what looked like old files. His expression grew darker with each passing minute. "You have a degree in graphic design?" he signed, turning back to her. She nodded. 4-year degree. Graduated with honors. It's hanging on my apartment wall, reminding me every day that it didn't matter." He shook his head slowly, and Maya could see genuine regret in his eyes. Not pity. She'd seen enough pity to last a lifetime. This was different. This was someone understanding that something wrong had happened, something unfair. "I'm sorry," he signed. "That shouldn't have happened." "You deserved better than that." Maya shrugged, a gesture that crossed all language barriers. "It's okay. I'm used to it. This is just how things are." "But it shouldn't be," he insisted, his signing becoming more passionate. "That's not how things should be. That's not the company I thought I was running." They kept talking as the city lights twinkled outside the massive windows. He told her about his sister's dreams of becoming a teacher, dreams that had been crushed by schools that didn't want to accommodate her. About how fierce and brilliant she was, how she'd taught him to see the world differently, about how much he regretted letting their family issues separate them. Maya shared her own stories too, about her parents who'd worked 3 jobs to send her to college, about her best friend who'd been with her since elementary school, the only hearing person who'd bothered to learn sign language fluently, just to talk to her, about the small joys she found in life, art, cooking, the way the city looked at sunrise when she finally left work. She told him about the assumptions people made, how they'd talk slowly and loudly like that would somehow help, or how they'd just avoid her altogether, how she'd learned to read lips pretty well but it was exhausting and unreliable, how people would talk about her right in front of her, thinking she couldn't understand, not realizing she could read their body language and facial expressions better than they could themselves. The CEO listened to everything, really listened. His eyes never glazed over. He never checked his phone. He was completely present in a way Maya rarely experienced, even with hearing people who knew sign language. He asked questions. He wanted to understand. And when she told him the hard parts, the painful parts about being overlooked and underestimated her entire life, she saw real emotion in his face. "You know what the worst part is?" Maya signed, surprising herself with her own honesty. "It's not that I can't hear. I've never heard, so I don't know what I'm missing. The worst part is knowing that I could do so much more. But people look at me and only see what I can't do. They never ask about what I can do." The CEO leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling for a long moment. When he looked back at her, there was determination in his eyes. "What can you do?" He signed. Maya laughed, a sound she couldn't hear but could feel in her chest. "Design, create, solve problems. See things from different angles. Connect with people when they give me a chance. Work harder than most because I've had to fight for every opportunity. That's what I can do." He nodded slowly and something shifted in his expression. It was like watching someone make a decision, seeing the exact moment when they chose to do something instead of just thinking about it. "I need to check something," he signed. "Can you wait here for just a minute?" Maya nodded, watching as he turned back to his computer. His fingers moved rapidly across the keyboard, clicking through screens and files. She saw his expression grow darker and darker, his jaw clenching. Whatever he was finding, it wasn't good. After about 10 minutes, he turned back to her. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Has anyone else in this building ever signed to you? Any manager, any supervisor, anyone?" Maya shook her head. "No, never. You're the first person in 3 years who's even tried to communicate with me beyond pointing at things and giving me basic instructions." The CEO closed his eyes for a moment, and Maya could see him trying to control some strong emotion. When he opened them again, there was steel in his gaze. "Go home," he signed. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow. No, today." He corrected himself, glancing at the clock that now showed past 2 in the morning. "Later today, I'm going to need to talk to you again, officially. But first, I have some phone calls to make. Some people to wake up. Some very uncomfortable conversations to have." Maya felt confused. "Am I in trouble?" "No," he signed quickly, emphatically. "Not at all. But some other people are going to be. I just learned something tonight that I should have known years ago. You helped me see that. Thank you." She stood up, still uncertain about what had just happened or what it meant. At the door, she turned back. "Your sister," she signed. "Call her. Life's too short to waste years being stubborn. Trust me on that." He smiled, a real smile this time, not the tired, sad expression from before. "Maybe I will," he signed back. Maya collected her cleaning cart and finished the rest of her shift in a daze. She kept replaying the conversation in her mind, trying to understand what had just happened. The CEO knew sign language. He'd talked to her like she was a real person, not just the invisible woman who cleaned his office. He'd been angry on her behalf about things she'd long accepted as just the way things were. When her shift finally ended and she walked out into the early morning air, the sun was just starting to peek over the buildings. Maya pulled out her phone and texted her best friend, even though it was way too early for anyone to be awake. "You won't believe what just happened at work tonight," she typed. "I'll tell you everything later, but I think something changed. I don't know what yet, but something definitely changed." She had no idea how right she was, and she had no idea that in just a few hours her entire life was about to turn upside down. Maya barely slept. She kept tossing and turning in her small bed, replaying the conversation with the CEO over and over in her mind. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his hands forming signs, his face showing real emotion, real understanding. It had been such a strange night, so unexpected. She finally drifted off around 7 in the morning, exhausted but with a strange feeling of hope she hadn't felt in years. Her phone's vibration against the nightstand jolted her awake. Maya's eyes cracked open, confused and disoriented. The sunlight streaming through her thin curtains was way too bright. She grabbed her phone and squinted at the screen. It was barely past 10. She'd only been asleep for 3 hours. The phone was buzzing with a video call from her supervisor, Mr. Patterson. This was weird. Mr. Patterson never called her. They communicated through text messages, and even then, it was usually just her schedule or brief instructions. Maya sat up, her heart suddenly pounding. Had she done something wrong? Had someone complained about her? She accepted the call and waited for the video relay interpreter to connect. When Mr. Patterson's face appeared on the screen, he looked stressed. More than stressed, actually. He looked nervous, maybe even scared. The interpreter's voice came through her phone's speaker, translating his words into text on her screen, while also signing them in a small window. Maya had the sound off like always, relying on the text and the interpreter's signing. "Maya, I need you to come back to the building right away," Mr. Patterson said, his words appearing on her screen. The interpreter's hands moved quickly, emphasizing his urgency. Maya's stomach dropped. "Why? What's wrong? Did I forget to clean something?" "No, nothing like that." "You're not in trouble," he said quickly, but his expression suggested otherwise. "I just got a call from the executive floor. They want to see you. Today. Now. They're sending a car to pick you up." Maya stared at the screen, trying to process this information. The executive floor? A car? None of this made sense. "Who wants to see me? Why?" Mr. Patterson wiped his forehead. "I don't know the details. The call came from the CEO's office directly. They just said it was urgent and that you needed to come in immediately. The car should be at your place in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes? But I just got home. I worked all night. I haven't even— I know, Mr. Patterson interrupted. But this came from the top, Maya. The very top. I can't say no to this. Neither can you. Just, please go when the car arrives. And Maya?" He hesitated, looking even more uncomfortable. "Whatever this is about, I had nothing to do with it. I want you to know that." The call ended before Maya could ask any more questions. She sat there for a moment staring at her phone, trying to make sense of what just happened. Her mind immediately went to the worst possibilities. Had someone seen her in the CEO's office last night? Were there cameras? Was she going to get fired for talking to him instead of just cleaning and leaving? But he'd seemed so genuine, so kind, and he told her specifically that she wasn't in trouble. Still, people said a lot of things in the moment that they regretted later. Maybe he'd realized that having a conversation with the janitor wasn't appropriate. Maybe someone had told him it looked bad. Maya jumped out of bed and rushed to get dressed. She couldn't show up in her pajamas, especially not if this was something official. She pulled on her best outfit, a simple black dress and cardigan that she usually saved for family events. Her hands shook as she tried to put in her earrings. She looked at herself in the small bathroom mirror. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep and her locks needed redoing, but there was no time for that now. She texted her best friend Carmen in a panic. "Something weird is happening. My supervisor just called. They're sending a car for me. A car to take me back to work. I'm freaking out." Carmen's response came back immediately. "What? Why? What did you do?" "I don't know. Maybe nothing? Or maybe I'm getting fired. I can't tell. Do you need me to come with you?" Maya appreciated the offer, but she knew Carmen had work. "No, it's okay. I'll text you as soon as I know what's going on. If I don't text you in 2 hours, send help." "Not funny, Maya. I'm not joking." Exactly 20 minutes later, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Car service for Maya, Washington. We're outside your building." She looked out her window and her jaw dropped. Parked right in front of her apartment building was a sleek black town car. Not a taxi, not an Uber, an actual professional town car, with a driver in a suit standing next to it. Her neighbors were all ready, looking out their windows. Mrs. Chen, from next door, was practically pressing her face against the glass, trying to see what was happening. Maya grabbed her purse and rushed downstairs, her mind racing with possibilities, none of them making any sense. The driver opened the door for her before she could reach for it herself. "Miss Washington?" he asked, though he was also looking at a photo on his phone to confirm her identity. Maya pointed to her ear and shook her head, making the gesture she'd done 1,000 times before. But this driver surprised her. He pulled out his phone and quickly typed something, then showed her the screen. "I'm David. I'll be driving you to Sterling Technologies. Please make yourself comfortable." He'd actually taken the time to communicate with her properly. Maya felt a small flutter of something. Hope, maybe, as she slid into the leatherback seat. The car smelled expensive, like new leather and subtle cologne. There was bottled water in a holder, and the seats were more comfortable than her couch at home. As they drove through the city, Maya tried to calm her nerves. She watched the buildings pass by, the morning traffic, the people rushing to their jobs, everyone out there going about their normal day while her entire world felt like it was tilting sideways. She pulled out her phone and typed a message to Carmen. "The car is insane. Like movie star level. I'm either getting fired in style or something really weird is happening." The drive felt both too long and too short. When they pulled up to Sterling Technologies, Maya expected to go to the employee entrance around back where she always entered. But the driver went straight to the main entrance. The one with the revolving glass doors and the fancy lobby with the fountain? Wrong entrance, Maya wanted to say. But before she could pull out her phone to type it, David was already opening her door. He typed quickly on his phone and showed her. This is correct. You're expected at the main entrance. Maya stepped out onto the sidewalk, very aware that she was wearing her best dress, but it still looked nothing like what the people walking into this building wore. Their suits probably cost more than her entire month's rent. She saw people glancing at her, their eyes curious, maybe a little judgmental. She didn't belong here. Not during the day. Not through this entrance. David walked with her all the way to the security desk. The guard, someone Maya had never seen before because she only worked nights, looked at his computer screen and then back at her with an expression of confusion. He typed something, made a phone call, and then printed out a visitor badge. A visitor badge. She'd worked here for 3 years and had an employee ID, but now she was a visitor. David gestured toward the elevators, and Maya followed, feeling like she was in some kind of strange dream. They rode up in silence, or what was silence for her anyway. Other people got on and off at different floors, all of them in their business clothes, carrying their coffee and their laptops, looking important and purposeful. Maya clutched her small purse and tried not to make eye contact with anyone. The elevator numbers climbed. 20, 30, 40. They passed the 45th floor where she worked every night. Then the 46th. The doors finally opened on the 47th floor. The executive level. The level she only cleaned when it was completely empty. But it wasn't empty now. People were everywhere, moving with purpose, talking, carrying folders and tablets, and they all seemed to know exactly where they were going and what they were doing. Maya felt completely out of place. David led her down a hallway she'd mopped 100 times, but had never walked during business hours. The carpet was so thick she couldn't feel her footsteps. The walls were covered in expensive art. Everything screamed money and power. They stopped at a door Maya had never noticed before. It was unmarked, just a plain wooden door that looked like it could be a closet. David knocked twice, then opened it and gestured for her to enter. Maya's heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. She stepped inside. It wasn't a closet. It was a conference room, and it was nothing like the ones she cleaned on the lower floors. This room had floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the entire city. The table in the center was so polished she could see her reflection in it. And sitting around that table were 5 people, all of them looking at her as she entered. The CEO was there, sitting at the head of the table, looking much more put together than he had last night, but with the same intensity in his eyes. Next to him was an older woman with silver hair cut in a sharp bob, wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than Maya's car. There were 2 other executives, both men in their 50s, and then Maya's breath caught. There was another woman at the table, younger, maybe around Maya's age, and she was signing. Actually signing, having a conversation in ASL with the older woman, both of them using their hands as naturally as breathing. The younger woman looked up when Maya entered, and her face broke into a warm smile. She stood up and walked over, her hands already moving. "Hi Maya, I'm Lily, please come sit down." "I know this must be confusing, but we're going to explain everything." Maya's head was spinning. She managed to make her feet move toward the empty chair that Lily was pointing to, right across from where the CEO sat. She sat down carefully, like the chair might break if she put her full weight on it. Everyone was looking at her with expressions she couldn't quite read. Not angry, not disappointed. Something else. Something that looked almost like sympathy. The older woman with the silver hair signed something to Lily, who nodded and then turned to Maya. But before Lily could translate, the older woman started signing herself. Her movements were professional, practiced, perfect. "My name is Dr. Eleanor Reeves. I'm the Chief Ethics Officer here at Sterling Technologies. First, let me assure you that you're not in trouble, not even a little bit. In fact, we owe you an apology, a very big apology." Maya's hands moved almost automatically. "I don't understand. An apology for what?" The CEO leaned forward, and his signing was better than it had been last night, like he'd been practicing. "Last night after we talked, I couldn't stop thinking about what you told me. About applying here 3 years ago for a design position and never hearing back. So I started looking into our hiring records. What I found made me sick." Dr. Reeves took over, her signing crisp and clear. We spent the entire night and morning conducting an emergency investigation. What we discovered is that there's been systematic discrimination happening in this company for years, and we never knew about it until now. Discrimination? Maya signed, the word feeling heavy in the air. Lily jumped in, her signing emotional and passionate. Against deaf applicants. Against people with disabilities. It's been buried in the middle management, hidden from the people at the top who actually care about doing the right thing. The CEO pulled up something on his laptop and turned the screen so Maya could see. It was her job application from 3 years ago. She could see her photo, her resume, her portfolio samples. Everything looked professional and qualified. Then he scrolled down to some notes that had been added to her file. Notes she'd never seen before. Applicant requires accommodations. Too complicated for entry-level position. Suggesting maintenance role instead. No interview necessary. Maya stared at those words. Someone had written that about her. Someone had decided without ever meeting her, without ever seeing her work, that she was too complicated. That she wasn't worth the effort of providing an interpreter for a simple interview. That's not all. Dr. Reeves signed. She pulled up more files on the large screen at the front of the room. More applications. More names. More photos. All deaf applicants. All marked with similar notes. Requires accommodations. Communication barriers. Better suited for non-customer-facing roles. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. For 5 years, Dr. Reeves signed, her face showing barely controlled anger. This has been happening. Qualified people applying for positions they were perfect for, and being rejected without ever getting a chance. Or worse, being offered jobs so far below their qualifications that it was insulting. Maya felt something hot building in her chest. It wasn't just her. It was dozens of other people like her. People who'd been turned away, pushed aside, made invisible by someone who couldn't be bothered to see their value. Lily reached across the table and touched Maya's hand gently. My brother called me at 4 this morning. We haven't spoken in 7 years. He told me what you two talked about, and he told me what he'd found. I came here immediately because this, she gestured at the screens full of rejected applications. This is wrong. This is exactly the kind of thing that happened to me my whole life, and it needs to stop. Wait, Maya signed, looking between Lily and the CEO. You're his sister? The one he told me about? Lily nodded, tears shining in her eyes. Yeah, he's stubborn and proud, just like our dad. But apparently you said something last night that got through to him. You told him life's too short to waste years being stubborn. So he called me. We talked for hours. We cried, we made up. And then he told me about you, and about what he'd discovered, and I knew I had to be here for this. The CEO's signing was shaky now, emotional. You helped me find my sister again. And in doing that, you helped me see what was happening in my own company. Things I should have been paying attention to all along. But I didn't do anything. Maya signed, confused and overwhelmed. I just told you my story. I just answered your questions. Exactly. Dr. Reeves signed firmly. You told the truth. You shared your experience, and that truth exposed something that was hidden. Now we have to decide what we're going to do about it. One of the men who hadn't signed yet spoke up, and Lily translated his words. We've already fired 3 managers this morning. The ones who were making these decisions, who were hiding these practices. There will probably be more firings once we complete the full investigation. But firing people isn't enough, the CEO signed. We need to fix the entire system. We need to make sure this never happens again, and that's where you come in, Maya. Maya's hands froze halfway through signing a question. Me? What do I have to do with fixing anything? Lily smiled. Everything. You have everything to do with it. Because we can hire consultants and experts all day long, but they won't have what you have. They won't have the experience of being on the receiving end of this discrimination. They won't know what it feels like to be invisible. Dr. Reeves nodded. We want to create a new department. Disability Inclusion and Innovation. We want to make sure Sterling Technologies becomes a place where everyone has a real chance. Where accommodations aren't seen as complications but as basic respect. Where diversity isn't just a buzzword in our PR materials but a lived reality. And we want you to help lead it, the CEO signed, his expression serious and hopeful at the same time. Maya's mind went blank. She couldn't have heard that right. Except she hadn't heard it at all, she'd seen it in sign language, clear as day. They wanted her to help lead a department. Her, the woman who cleaned toilets and emptied trash cans 12 hours ago. I'm a janitor, she signed slowly, like maybe they'd forgotten that crucial detail. No, Lily signed firmly. You're a graphic designer with a 4-year degree who's been cleaning floors because no one gave you a better option. There's a difference. I don't have any experience in human resources or management or any of this corporate stuff, Maya protested, her hands moving frantically now. None of us knew what we were doing when we started, the CEO signed. We learned. You'll learn too. And you won't be alone. We're bringing in experts, HR professionals, disability rights advocates. But we need someone who knows what it's like from the inside. Someone who can spot the problems before they happen, because they've lived them. Dr. Reeves pulled up another document on the screen. It looked official, full of legal language and numbers. This is a preliminary offer, she signed. Inclusion Innovation Consultant. Starting salary of $75,000 a year with benefits, with a clear path to director level within 2 years if you meet certain benchmarks. You'd be working alongside HR to redesign our entire hiring and accommodation process. Maya stared at the number on the screen. $75,000. She made $19,000 a year as a janitor. This was almost 4 times that amount. This was more money than she'd ever imagined making. This was life-changing money. And before you worry that this is just for show, Dr. Reeves continued, I want you to know that I've put my own job on the line. If Sterling Technologies fails to meet specific, measurable goals within the first year, goals we'll set together, then I resign. This isn't a PR stunt. This is real change with real accountability. Maya looked around the table at all these people watching her, waiting for her response. The CEO who'd reconnected with his sister because of their conversation. Lily who'd come to support this change. Dr. Reeves who was willing to risk her career. The other executives who were nodding along, seemingly on board with this massive shift. This was insane. This was impossible. This was everything she'd ever wanted but had convinced herself she'd never have. I need time, Maya signed finally. This is too big. I need to think about it, talk to people I trust, make sure this is real and not just, I don't know, a guilty reaction that will fade away in a week. That's completely fair. The CEO signed immediately. Take 24 hours. Talk to whoever you need to talk to. Here's my personal cell number. He slid a business card across the table. Text me anytime if you have questions. Any questions at all? Maya took the card with trembling hands. She looked at each person around the table one more time, trying to read their faces, trying to see if this was genuine, or if she was being set up for some kind of disappointment she hadn't figured out yet. Can I ask one more thing? She signed. Anything, Dr. Reeves answered. Why should I trust that this won't just disappear once the guilt wears off? That I won't end up back in the basement with my cleaning cart in 6 months? The room was quiet for a moment. Then Lily signed something that hit Maya right in the heart. Because my brother just got me back after 7 years of silence, and he knows that if he screws this up, if he lets this company continue hurting people like us, I'll never forgive him. And neither will I forgive myself if I don't hold him accountable. You're not alone in this, Maya. If you say yes, you'll have allies. Real ones, Maya nodded slowly. She stood up from the table, her legs shaky but still working. 24 hours, she signed. I'll give you my answer tomorrow. As David drove her home in that impossibly nice car, Maya pulled out her phone and texted Carmen. You're not going to believe this. I'm not sure I believe it myself. But I think my whole life just changed. I think someone finally saw me. Her phone buzzed back immediately. Tell me everything. Maya smiled, exhausted and overwhelmed and terrified and hopeful all at once. She looked out the window at the city passing by, and for the first time in 3 years, she let herself imagine a different future, one where she wasn't invisible anymore. Maya's apartment had never felt so small. She sat on her worn couch, surrounded by the people she trusted most in the world, and they were all staring at her like she'd just told them she was moving to Mars, which honestly, probably would have been more believable than what she'd actually said. Carmen was pacing back and forth in the tiny living room, her hands moving a mile a minute as she signed. $75,000? Maya, that's insane. That's amazing. That's terrifying. How are you not freaking out more than you are? Oh, I'm freaking out, Maya signed back. I'm just doing it on the inside. Her mother sat in the armchair, the one that had been in their family for 20 years, her face showing a mix of pride and worry that only mothers could master. Maya's father stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. They'd rushed over as soon as Maya called. taking time off from work because their daughter needed them. That's what they did. They always showed up. Tell us again exactly what they said, her father signed. He was a careful man, someone who'd learned early in life not to trust things that seemed too good to be true. He'd worked construction for 30 years, his hands rough and scarred from honest work, and he'd taught Maya to question everything. So Maya told them again. About that night cleaning the CEO's office, about their conversation in sign language, about him discovering the discrimination, about the meeting this morning with all those executives, about the job offer that seemed impossible but was somehow real. She showed them the business card with the CEO's personal number on it, like that proved something. And you're sure this isn't some kind of setup? Her father asked. Some way for them to look good without actually changing anything? That's exactly what I'm worried about, Maya admitted. That's why I asked for time to think. I don't want to be someone's diversity trophy. I don't want to be the person they point to and say, look, we're inclusive, while nothing actually changes. Carmen stopped pacing and sat down next to Maya, taking her hands. But what if it's real? What if this is actually your chance to do something that matters? To stop what happened to you from happening to other people? That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. Maya signed, her movements tired.
What if I fail?
What if I take this job and I'm terrible at it? I don't know anything about running a department or corporate policy or any of that stuff. Her mother finally spoke up, her signing slow and deliberate the way it always was when she wanted Maya to really listen. Baby, do you remember when you were 7 years old and you wanted to join the art club at school? Maya nodded, not sure where this was going. And the teacher said you couldn't because you wouldn't be able to hear the instructions. Her mother continued. And you cried for 3 days because you loved art so much? The memory came flooding back. Maya had forgotten about that. Or maybe she'd pushed it away with all the other painful memories of being told no, being told she couldn't, being told she was too difficult. You remember what you did? Her father signed, a smile playing at his lips. Maya smiled too, despite everything. I made my own art club, in our basement, and I invited every kid in the neighborhood who wanted to make art. You had 15 kids down there every Saturday for 2 years, her mother signed. You taught them. You organized projects. You were 7 years old, and you already knew how to lead when someone gave you the chance, or when you gave yourself the chance. That was different, Maya protested. That was just kids making art in a basement. No, her father signed firmly. That was you seeing a problem and fixing it. That was you creating something when the world said no. You've been doing that your whole life, Maya. This job? It's just a bigger basement. Carmen squeezed her hand. And you won't be alone. You said they're bringing in experts, right? HR people, disability advocates. You're not supposed to know everything. You're supposed to bring your perspective, your experience. That's what they want from you. But what if my perspective isn't enough? Maya signed, the fear she'd been holding back finally breaking through. What if I'm not enough? Her mother stood up and pulled Maya into a hug, holding her tight the way she had when Maya was little and the world felt too big and too unfair. When she pulled back, there were tears in her eyes. You listened to me. For 3 years, you scrubbed toilets in a building where you should have been designing their marketing materials. You got up every night, put on that uniform, and did your job with dignity even though they treated you like you were invisible. If that's not enough, then nothing is. Maya felt her own tears starting to fall. I'm scared. Good, her father signed. Being scared means it matters. If you weren't scared, I'd be worried. They talked for hours, going through every angle, every worry, every possibility. Carmen pulled up articles on her phone about workplace discrimination, about successful diversity initiatives, about what could go right and what could go wrong. Her parents asked questions Maya hadn't even thought of yet. What about benefits? What about job security? What if the CEO left the company? What if the whole thing was just a reaction to getting caught doing something wrong? I think, Maya finally signed when the sun was starting to set outside her window, I need to talk to some people from the deaf community. People who've been through stuff like this. Get their perspective. Carmen nodded enthusiastically. Yes, do that. You know who you should call? Remember Professor Davis from college? She works in disability advocacy now. She'd probably have good advice. Maya did remember Professor Davis. She'd been one of the few teachers in college who truly understood what deaf students needed, who fought for accommodations and made sure everyone had equal access. If anyone would give her honest advice, it would be her. That evening, Maya made several video calls through her relay service. She talked to Professor Davis, who got so excited about the opportunity that she actually jumped up from her chair. She talked to 3 people from the National Association of the Deaf, who gave her questions to ask the company, things to watch out for, red flags to notice. She talked to a deaf woman who'd been through something similar at another company and had ended up leaving after 6 months because it turned out to be all talk and no action. But the woman signed during their call, "I don't regret trying. I regret that they weren't serious. But if I hadn't tried, I would have always wondered what if. And maybe your company is different. Maybe they really mean it." By the time Maya went to bed that night, her brain was overflowing with information and opinions and advice. She lay in the dark, staring at her ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened in the last 48 hours. 2 days ago, she was just a janitor. Now she was someone who might be able to change an entire company. Maybe even change more than that. She thought about all those applications she'd seen on the screen. All those people like her who'd been rejected without a chance. All those dreams that had been crushed by someone who couldn't be bothered to see past a checkbox on a form. If she said yes, maybe she could help make sure that stopped happening. Not just at Sterling Technologies, but maybe other places too if they did it right. But if she said yes and it failed, if it turned out to be just for show, then what? She'd be humiliated. She'd be the person who believed in something that wasn't real. She'd probably end up back at square one, looking for another cleaning job because she'd have quit the one she had. Maya picked up her phone and looked at the business card she'd set on her nightstand. The CEO's personal number was printed there in small, neat letters. She could text him right now. She could ask more questions. She could say yes. She could say no. She could do anything. Instead, she typed out a message to Carmen. "I think I know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to sleep on it one more night. Make sure it's really what I want and not just what seems exciting in the moment." Carmen's response came back within seconds. "Smart, but I already know what you're going to decide." "Oh yeah? What's that?" "You're going to say yes, because you're not the kind of person who walks away from a chance to make things better, even when you're scared, especially when you're scared." Maya smiled at her phone. Carmen knew her too well. But Carmen was right. Deep down, underneath all the fear and doubt, Maya already knew what her answer was going to be. She'd known since the moment they made the offer. Everything else was just her brain trying to catch up with what her heart had already decided. The next morning, Maya woke up early. She took her time getting ready, putting on the same dress she'd worn to the meeting. She did her makeup carefully, not too much but enough to feel put together. She looked at herself in the mirror and tried to see what they saw. Not a janitor, not someone who was too complicated. A person with value, a person with something to offer. She texted the CEO's number, her thumbs hesitant over the keys. "This is Maya. Are you available to talk this morning?" "I have my answer." The response came back in less than a minute. "Yes, absolutely. Do you want to come to the office or would you prefer to meet somewhere else?" Maya thought about it. The office felt too formal, too much like she was walking back into their world on their terms. "Is there a coffee shop nearby? Somewhere we could talk?" "There's a place called the Daily Grind 2 blocks from the office. Best coffee in the city. I can be there in 30 minutes. "I'll be there." Maya took the bus, the same bus she'd taken 1,000 times before when she needed to run errands during the day. She watched the city pass by. All those people going about their lives, none of them knowing that hers was about to completely change. Or maybe it wouldn't change. Maybe she was building this up too much in her head, and it would all fall apart. The coffee shop was busy with the morning rush, people in suits grabbing their caffeine fix before heading to work. Maya found a table in the corner where she could see the door. She ordered a tea she didn't really want, just to have something to do with her hands while she waited. The CEO arrived exactly on time, looking less formal than he had in the office. He was wearing jeans and a sweater, no tie, and he looked younger somehow. Less like a CEO and more like a regular person. He spotted her and smiled, then came over and sat down across from her. "Thank you for meeting me," he signed. His signing was even better than before. "Did you get my sister's number from Dr. Reeves? She wanted me to make sure you had it in case you wanted to talk to her separately." Maya shook her head. "I didn't know she offered. But I talked to a lot of other people. People I trust. People who've been through situations like this. And what did they tell you?" He signed, his expression open and genuinely curious. "They told me to be careful, to watch out for red flags, to get everything in writing, to make sure this was real and not just a reaction to getting caught doing something wrong. Maya paused, watching his face. They also told me that if it is real, it could be an amazing opportunity. Not just for me, but for a lot of people. He nodded slowly. All of that is fair and smart. I'm glad you talked to people who could give you honest advice. He pulled out his phone and started typing something, then showed her the screen. It was a draft of a press release. This is what we're planning to announce next week, whether you say yes or no. We're going public with what we found. The discrimination, the firings, our commitment to change. If you join us, we'll include that. If you don't, we'll still move forward with the rest. Maya read through it carefully. It was detailed, specific. It didn't try to hide what had happened or make excuses. It laid out concrete goals with timelines. It was either the most elaborate fake-out she'd ever seen, or it was real. I have conditions, Maya signed, making a decision in that moment. If I'm going to do this, it has to be on certain terms. Name them, he signed immediately. First, I want everything in writing. The job description, the goals, the timeline, what success looks like, what happens if things don't work out. Everything. Done. Dr. Reeves is already drafting it. Second, I want a contract that says if this department gets cut or if I get pushed out for any reason, other than genuinely not doing my job well, I get a year's severance, because I'm giving up job security to take this risk. He didn't even hesitate. That's more than fair. I'll have our lawyers add that. Third, I want regular check-ins with you and Dr. Reeves. Not just performance reviews, but actual conversations about what's working and what's not. I don't want to be left on an island by myself to figure this out. Weekly meetings for the first 3 months, then bi-weekly after that. And you'll have my personal number. If something comes up that can't wait, you call me directly. Maya took a deep breath. And fourth, I want Lily involved. Your sister. I want her as part of the advisory board for this department. Because if you two can work together again after 7 years apart, that tells me something about whether this is real or not. For the first time, his signing wavered a little. His eyes got shiny and he had to look away for a moment. When he looked back, he signed, "She's already agreed." She actually insisted on it. She said she wasn't going to let me mess this up. Good, Maya signed. Then I have one more question. Anything. Why me? Really, not the PR answer. The real answer. You could hire anyone to do this. Someone with more experience, more credentials, more connections.